Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillah, finally, the researcher was able to finish a research paper entitled Developing Explanation Text Materials Through Project-Based Learning Approach Assisted by Canva in Teaching Reading to Second Senior High School. Before continuing this presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Egar Ksatria, student ID 1822014. And I would like to say thanks to Miss Intan Satriani as the first supervisor and Miss Nai Supartini as the second supervisor has helped me to complete this research paper. Okay, now move to this topic. The first here is table of content from the My Research paper. First in chapter is the introduction. Chapter 2, literature review. Chapter 3, research and methodology. Chapter 4, research and discussion. And the last at least chapter 5, conclusion. And this first chapter is English is an international language that is very important for students to learn. In Indonesia, in the process of learning English, students learn four basic English skills, namely speaking, writing, listening, and reading. Especially for reading, it is necessary because students are required to recognize and understand the rules for reading function mark along with the procedures for reading a text. Students are usually faced with difficulties in reading and explaining text in the learning process. There are some learning material where students seem to find it difficult to read and explain a text. One of which is an explanation text because students must explain the text and have to read a vocabulary and sentence that are uncommon to the model. In the process of teaching reading, students usually feel confused by the text. They read because of the limitation of teaching method and variation of student results. They are not having the motivation. This problem is very important to find a solution. With good learning media, it is hoped that students can be have in the explanation text learning process. Teaching material, one of the most important teaching media in the learning process. One of them is Module. Module is learning media that allows students to learn independently without facilitator. According to Ciptiani 2016, modules are teaching material that are systematically and attractively arranged which contain material content, method, and evaluation that can be used independently. The model is usually adjusted to the syllabus that has been set by the school. As part of the learning effort that fits the model. One of which is project-based learning. Wahyuni 2019 states that project-based learning is a learning model that provides opportunities for educators to manage learning in the classroom by involving work projects. Ladies and gentlemen, this research also has some objectives, such as the first, to analyze the process of developing explanation text material through project-based learning assisted by Canva in teaching reading to second grade senior high school. The second is to find out the feasibility explanation text material through project-based learning assisted by Canva in teaching reading to second grade senior high school. The third, to know the teacher and student responses to developing explanation text material through project-based learning assisted by Canva in teaching reading to second grade senior high school. And then the last, to investigate the difficulties in developing teaching material of explanation text through project-based learning assisted by Canva in teaching reading. Teaching material are learning material that refer to curriculum use in order to achieve competency standard and basic competencies that have been determined by study 2019. Meanwhile, based on Pastowa 2014, teaching material are all material both information, tools, and systematically arranged with displays a complete figure of competence that will be mastered by students and used in the learning process with the aim of learning and reviewing the implementation of learning. For example, textbooks, model, handout, worksheet, model, or mock-up, and teaching material interactive audio. Reading is a very important to skill be mastered by every individual. Besides that, reading is a process that is carried out as well as used by the reader to get the message, which is intended to be conveyed by reader through written language. Nuriadi 2008 assumed that reading is a process that involves physical activity and mentally. One of the physical activity is reading is when the reader moving the eyes along the lines of writing in a reading text. It, reading involves mental activity that can guarantee acquisition, understanding is maxim. Reading is not just moving the ball eyes from the left to the right margin, but far from it, namely the activity of thinking for understand the text. Project-based learning. Project-based learning is an educational paradigm based on the constructivist approach to learning, which comprises the building of knowledge from many perspectives within a social activity and allow for self-awareness of learning and knowing while being context-dependent. Davey and Cunningham 2016. Thomas 2020 defines feasibility using five criteria. Projects should be essential to the curriculum, concentrate on difficulties that cause students to struggle with fundamental ideas, included students in constructivist research, with student-driven and realistic. Explanatory text is text that explains to the reader how and why something happened. Explanation text is to explain the phenomenon that occurs as well as explain the cause and effect of an event. This statement is also supported by Kosasih 2014. He stated that explanation text is text that describes a process or event regarding the origins, process, or development of a phenomenon, perhaps in the form of natural events, social or cultural. Meanwhile, Barwick 2007 adds that explanation is a text that explains the process and the reason something in the world can have. The R&D method in this research is adapted by ADI model. There are analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation. This research conducted in MMA Asedia Cipanas with participation in MIPA 1 and 2 2001 until 2002 academic year with some instrument to collect data based on document analysis and questionnaire and the last reflective journal. The product developed by the researcher and the instrument are validated by two lecturers. Previous to listen the use of the creative teaching model. This validation was performed to acquire data on the feasibility of teaching model and teaching material for class second grade student at MLS idea. Particularly explanation text material to aid students in mastering English skill, especially reading. This validation by an English department lecturer seeks to gather information, criticism, and suggestion so that the teaching model generated by researcher become a quality and a good product that are appropriate for student skill and may serve as an incentive study. Validators, criticism, and suggestion are also in the product improvement process before it tested on student. 86% for the teacher responses and almost 95% student responses, and the category is very good. And then the last is a conclusion in the study. The person in this study entitled Developing Explanation Text Teaching Material to Project-Based Learning assisted by Canva in teaching reading second grade senior high school, which was developed using ADI model as a research procedure received a positive responses with a very good category. And the second, based on the result of the feasibility test in a preliminary test and main field test of 60 students on the explanation text model, the researcher concluded that the category obtained was very good, with an average percentage of above 85% and a score above 3.50 in 4 categories of question indicators. Then this model deserves to use. The third, the explanation text model is the study reserve a good category by material expert in the aspect of learning design and learning material with the highest scores, namely 3.55 and 3.40. The response of the teacher and student to the explanation model was very good by getting a percentage of 86% and score of 3.45. This model can also provide learning motivation for students and increase critical thinking in the learning process. I think this enough for the presentation. And Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Kumaha carana?